Hello and welcome into the KE Report. I'm your host, Shad Markwitz, and today we're getting an update on Sierra Madre Gold and Silver. Sierra Madre is traded on the TSXV under the ticker SM, and on the OTCQX under the ticker SMDRF. I'm joined today with the president and CEO of Sierra Madre Gold and Silver, Alex Langer. And Alex, always great to have you on the show. We chatted back in October. Couldn't get together in November when you put out your Q3 news because you were busy traveling throughout Europe at multiple conferences and then even in Dubai. So you've been on a busy schedule, as have a lot of company executives, but so good to have you on the show. Just to recap how Q3 went for the company. Now, you put out news on the 13th of November. Solid results here. And just as a reminder for people listening in, not familiar with the company is producing from the La Guitarra mine, but also now the Coloso mine and the Nazareno mine. So really pulling ore from three different mines and processing at the La Guitarra plant. Alex, give us an update on how things went in Q3.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks so much for having me, Shad. Yeah, and it's been a busy time here over the last little while. We've had quite a bit of interest and conferences, and price of silver and gold moving up is always beneficial. So it's been great. But yeah, quarter three was good. We were very happy with it, progressing, moving, I guess, everything forward. As you mentioned, we now have three mines that have turned online, which is great. We're continuing our development both at Coloso and Nazareno. So you're going to see more and more ore from those two mines coming into play. So we're really happy with what we did. We had 1.7 million and positive in gross profit, which is great, especially, again, we just started as a bit of a reminder for everybody. Commercial production started on January 1st of this year. So we're still ramping up and we are, as you mentioned, in full production mode.
Well, I think it's also nice for people that have been following the story or people that are listening that are new to the story, how quickly you've gotten things going here, because I think you brought on Colosso earlier in the schedule. Well, really, you brought on La Guitarra ahead of schedule. Colosso came in, I think, surprised some people. And then when Nazareno came in, because Colosso and Nazareno are connected, I think that was even a bigger eyebrow raiser. So maybe just talk about the speed that your team on the ground in Mexico has been working.
Yeah, it was so we originally purchased La Guitarra for the exploration upside, and I'm sure we'll get into that again. Silver hit $24. We're like, we got to get this thing into production as soon as possible. So we got into the market, give us 2 years, and 13 months later, we're able to turn it on. A couple things with that. Obviously, my technical team ran and operated the mine previous to First Majestic, and then also First Majestic did an amazing job with care and maintenance and community relations. So it was a little bit simpler than we had hoped. And the big thing actually was equipment availability. So it was very difficult to source new equipment. The lead time can be up to a year and a half. So that was one of the reasons why we had guided, 2 years. We were able to find some used equipment. We were able to repair a lot of equipment that was at site. So that was one of the key reasons we were able to get into production so quickly. And then moving into Coloso and Nazareno. So Coloso is about 1.7 times higher silver grade than La Guitarra. It's 1.2 times higher on the gold side. And it's where First Majestic really focused their production on the last number of years within the whole complex. So for us, we had planned to actually turn it on right about now. And again, just the state of the mine, we were able to dewater that area. We were able to get more equipment. We were able to staff up even more. So that's where we were able to bring it online earlier. And then same with Nazareno. It was one of these scenarios where, going through the Nazareno complex and the mine, it's also new. That was commissioned in 2014 by First Majestic. And yeah, there was, material available to us, and so we just started to mine from there, again making sure that the equipment and everything was available to us. So with these metal prices as well, it makes things a lot easier. We're able to actually produce from material that would be considered waste rock. So as we're doing development, we're intersecting areas that have mineralization, but not nearly the grades that are within the resource. But material that is profitable at these prices. So it's been a combination of a few things. It's the history of the mine. It's also the silver price, and it's also a pretty dedicated workforce that we have in Mexico.
Yeah, nice combination of personnel strength, the mines being left in great condition by First Majestic, and as you mentioned, higher metals prices. I think if people listening think about just where metals prices have averaged here in Q4, it's a real eye popper with both gold over 4,000 an ounce for most of the quarter, and silver hovering above 50 or above, currently way above that. So that just helps move things forward in a faster process. Let's talk about the expansion. Last time we discussed that, we got into some of the things that you plan on doing as far as increasing the tons per day, also the paste and fill plant. You got a fourth ball mill and a second cone crusher. There's a lot of things you're working on. And now you also have the dry stacks tailings storage facility that is permitted. So walk us through what the future looks like, not just here in Q4, but as we turn the calendar over to 2026, how can things expand at site?
Yeah, so just to remind everybody, the plant right now is about 500 ton per day operation, and we did guide to the market, yeah, in quarter three that we want to close to triple production by quarter three of 2027 in a two-phase expansion. Phase one, and we're getting pretty close here, is going to be in quarter two of 2026, so 6, 7 months away, which is quite exciting. As you mentioned, that'll entail a new cone crusher, a new ball mill, and the construction and fabrication of a paste backfill and concentrate plant, which is underway. So I'm heading down to site on Tuesday, but from what I've seen, the cone crusher has arrived. The footings are being put in place. We're getting the tank for the concentrator built in Toluca. We paid that PO. It's under operation. We started to excavate the area for that. And then the ball mill, we're just finalizing decision on which one to go with, but it's all kind of moving forward. So I think those timelines that we guided for quarter two of 2026 should be pretty close to achieving that. Now, with phase one expansion, we'll call it, that'll be about 750 to 800 tons per day throughput. So about a 50% increase from what we're mining right now. And then as we move on to phase two expansion, that'll be between 12 and 1,500 tons per day. You mentioned the big thing is going to be building that dry stack tailings facility. So it's fully permitted. It's 5.8 million tons. It's big. So the biggest thing we're trying to do is minimize, I guess, the upfront capital costs to get that into operation. It's about 10 million US, to be honest, but the first year is about 2.9 million US, and we can phase it out. So once we're ready, actually, it'll be probably this time next year, once the dry season has begun, we'll actually start construction of that facility. So once that dry stack tailings facility is fully operational, we'll be then moving to 12 to 1,500 tons per day. You never want to fall behind on your tailings space. We currently have about 2 years left at 500 tons per day in our wet facility. That's one of the reasons why we're going to be building the paste backfill. So we'll be able to move between 3 to 800 tons per day into old stopes that are in the underground, just alleviating that tailings confinement and making sure we always have enough space there. And then once the much larger facility is operational, we'll have a lot of redundancies and the ability to scale up to 12 to 1,500 tons per day by quarter three of 2027. Everything seems to be online so far, which is great.
That's a great synopsis, Alex. I think a lot of people are so excited about the mining and the extracting of ore that they forget about waste and where we're going to put it. So it's so important to have the dry stack tailing coming up and even the paste backfill in the interim to put some of the material back in the mine. Also adds to the mine stability, so a nice plus there. And then I think it's also important to note that in addition to increasing the throughput, you, because of some of these different areas, are also increasing the grade. Like you mentioned, Coloso's grade and Nazareno, complementing La Guitarra. So talk about the combination of throughput growth, but also grade-driven growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, we started this mine 13 months after we kind of made the decision, and there was a lot of development work to do. So when a mine shuts down, you usually fall behind on your development. It just costs you money. So why would you continue to do development work when you're just trying to extract as much ore as you possibly can? And then you would process it. And then when you restarted the mine, you would catch up your development work. So we went into production and we were still doing our development work. So, probably take about a year and a half to fully do development, and we're getting there. So we're starting to see grades increase. We obviously Nazareno, Coloso coming online. Our costs were quite a bit higher in quarter three. We were about $34 ASIC, which is quite high, but it's because of that development that's built into that. It's the new mines coming online. So as we complete the development, as we catch up into the higher resource areas, you're going to see our grades increase. And it's a great way to increase the amount of metal you produce is just by increasing grades. grades. So it's coming. We're probably a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half away from, getting to some much higher grades. That is sustainable as we push through for the next, number of years and as we increase our throughput. So it's all kind of coming together, and it's pretty exciting times. Again, the silver prices have been super, super helpful. That's why we've been profitable, and we should continue to be as we get into better grades.
Well, maybe talk about capital management as far as the new equipment and the dry stack tailings and the paste backfill plant. How much of that can be handled through incoming revenues? Are you using debt for some of that? I know you've done a raise at one point. Maybe just give us an update on the capital management side of things.
Yeah, so we're fully financed for all the capital increases that we're doing in terms of phase one and phase two expansion. We had about 17 million US in total cash at the end of last quarter, so more than enough to cover the two phases of expansion. So as you mentioned, we did raise $19.5 million in July. So that capital will allow us to do both expansions. Phase one is about 3.5 million US. Phase two expansion is about 5 million US. So leaves quite a bit. And again, we are producing, which is super, super helpful. So out of cash flows, we have quite a bit of extra there as well. It's also going to allow us to do 20 to 25,000 meters of exploration drilling, diamond drilling in our East District, which should start in quarter two of 2026 as well. Now we have started exploration work. We've started to rehab the underground in the East District. We're starting to sample. We're mapping, all in anticipation of that pretty exciting exploration program and drilling program starting in quarter two of next year.
Well, let's go there next, Alex, because the vision for the company has always been to bootstrap yourself as a company with organic growth through production that really fuels the exploration thesis, because this is a district scale land package. This is not just a couple of old mines you inherited. This is like a whole district of past producing mines. There's a lot of low hanging fruit you can go after with the drill bit. Just remind people some of the key targets that you want to go after next year in the second half of the year.
Yeah, and that's exactly true. So it is a whole district. Very rare for a junior of our size to hold a whole district of this size. It's one of the five largest producing silver districts in Mexico historically. For multiple decades, it was the largest producer of silver gold in Mexico. So there's about, I don't know, 19 kind of big mines within the district. I think there's over 1,600 workings we've now discovered. But there's two mines in particular that are very much of interest to us. One is Mina de Agua. Mina de Agua shut down in 1910, but it had about 10,000 workers at that time. Got a little bit too deep, it flooded, and nothing's really happened since then. And the other one is El Rincon. El Rincon was the last mine in production within the East District. That shut down in 1937. It ran for about 30 years at 100 tons per day, but the grades there were quite significant. We're looking at about 6.5 grams gold and 860 grams silver as a head grade. It's 6 to 8 times higher than what we're mining right now. So truly is, in our opinion, the best undeveloped silver district in Mexico. So for us, it's exciting. It's why we purchased La Guitarra complex in the first place, was for the exploration upside in the East District. And that drilling will start, as I mentioned, in quarter two of next year.
And just for people looking really far ahead, if we do even super big picture, how soon can you envision some of those other areas eventually coming into more of a hub and spoke production process? Is this 5 years out, 10 years out, 3 years out? Give us a rough estimate.
Yeah, it could be quicker. So it is permitted. First Majestic recognized this area as well, and they actually purchased a large piece of land there. It's about 150 hectares. I think they paid about 800,000 US dollars for it, and they did an environmental permit there. So their plan was to actually put in a long drift or a tunnel into some of the historic resource areas. It's about 2 kilometers away from this piece of land. But if we discover what we think we could discover within that area, we could actually build a much larger plant and facility in the East District. But if not, let's say we find a certain number, that high grade, it's only 7 kilometers away from the La Guitarra mill. So we could be pushing that material over, within 2 years. I would think that's a realistic goal. But again, if we find something much, much larger, then we'd probably have to look at building a much larger plant, which would be a really good problem to have.
That would be a good problem to have, because it would mean there's so much there that it needs its own plant. You could have a dual plant focus, but in the interim, like you say, it's not that far away distance-wise, so you could always truck the ore over, even maybe do it as a two-phase process. So just to give people an
Exactly.
idea of how this whole district could start coming together. So I guess just final thoughts here as we turn the calendar from December of 2025 into 2026. What's the key news on tap or key catalyst you want investors watching out for?
Absolutely. So a few things. One, you're going to see our costs start to come down as our grades increase. We're also renting a lot of equipment, so we're starting to purchase a bunch of it. I think we've purchased everything we need now except two more haulage trucks. So we spent about 2 million US over the last couple of quarters on equipment. You're going to see expansion news. Once various pieces of equipment within the plant are operational, whether that's a cone crusher, whether that's a paste backfill plant, whether that's the new ball mill as well. So we're going to see, I guess, news on that. Also some exploration news and some of the sampling and some of the grades that we should be getting over in the East District, which will be quite exciting. And again, I think a lot of people will be looking at our year-end financials. I think they're going to be quite strong, especially if silver and gold prices stay where they are. And then as we move into quarter one, I think they're going to be quite a bit better as development starts to be caught up. So lots happening over the next little while. Yeah, we're pretty excited. We kind of had our head down over the last bit. We are starting to get out there, as you mentioned. I was in Europe, I was in Dubai. Starting to tell the story a little bit. We have a big site visit next week. Actually, two of them coming up. So I'll be in Mexico, and I'm excited to see some of the progress, especially on the expansion side that we're doing at site.
Well, that's a nice look forward to 2026 and really rounding out this year here in 2025 at record high metals prices. So, yes, we will be watching keenly the Q4 numbers and the year-end numbers. We'll get back together, Alex, once those are out at the beginning of next year, and we'll just give everybody a nice update on that. But lots of news still coming on development, more equipment showing up to site, going from rental to owned equipment, but also all of the exploration news on tap. So, lots going on with Sierra Madre Gold and Silver. If you're interested in following along, definitely click on the link below in the show notes. It takes you right over to the company website, straight to their news section, where you can sign up for updates that hit your email inbox or just follow along with the news as it drops. Alex, I'm sure we'll be talking again in the new year. Have a great end of this year. Good luck with the site visit. And as always, looking forward to our next conversation.
Thank you so much, Chad. Looking forward to it.